Hi, this is Erling with Travel Trail Sail. Today we're sharing ideas on how to bring your bicycles with you when you go RV camping. If you've been following along on our journeys, you know we love having our bicycles with us. We've had the chance to ride on a beach in Huntington Beach State Park in South Carolina, ride along a lake at Itasca State Park in Minnesota, ride in the woods at Pocahontas State Park. It's just great to be able to be outside, and bicycles are a super way to enjoy an outside adventure. When we first started RV camping back in 2010, we really didn't know how to bring our bikes with us. And to be honest, we bought our camper and headed into a 2-month journey without enough time to really research the best ways. Since then, we've been observing all the different ways people bring bicycles with them when they camp. And today what we'd like to do is share some of those ideas and observations with you. Hopefully, this will inspire you to find just the right way to bring your bikes with you so you can enjoy an outdoor adventure too. Today we're going to share 8 different ways to bring bikes camping. And to be honest, the first 2 aren't really bike racks, but they're ways that we personally have brought our bikes with us camping. As I mentioned, when we first started with a travel trailer and a pickup, we headed out on this big Wild West adventure. And we wanted to bring our 4 bikes along, 2 adult bikes and 2 for the kids. But we really didn't know how to do that. There wasn't a great option. So option 1 that we did choose was to put our 2 adult bikes in the bed of our pickup truck. And we were able to bring our bikes all across the country that way. It worked, but there's some downsides to it too. We love bringing gear along to do things like cook outside. And if we have our bikes in the bed of the pickup, it uses all the storage space. So to make space for all of the things we wanted to bring camping, we knew we couldn't keep just putting bikes in the bed of the truck. Now for our 2 youth bikes, they didn't fit along with the adult bikes in the bed. So what we had to do was actually find a different way to bring them along. So this is option number 2. Put your bikes right in your RV. And in that case, our Jayco travel trailer had a jackknife sofa. We were able to fold that down into a flat surface. And then we used moving blankets, thick padded blankets to lay on top of the couch and put the bikes there. You could do the same thing with a bed. Because bikes can be a little bit dirty and sometimes greasy, we also brought along rags to put underneath the chain or other areas to try and help keep them from moving around when we were moving down the highway. And we were able to bring bikes along. This is a good and a very inexpensive option. However, you want to be mindful of a couple of things. One is those bikes can move around. As you're going down the highway, that travel trailer or RV is going to move, and those bikes could shift. They might actually damage the bikes, or worse yet, they could damage your RV. And I mentioned the bikes can be a little dirty, so you'll want to watch out for things like chain grease. But probably the biggest inconvenience was when we were stopping someplace, we'd have to take the bikes out in order to be able to use our couch. So if we were trying to go a long distance and maybe just had a one-night quick stop along the way, we didn't really have a place to sit unless we took the time to take the bikes outside and secure them. So option 1 and option 2, almost free ways of bringing your bikes with you camping. They do work. We used them for a year, but there are probably better options. So let's go ahead and move on to option number 3. Our next option is one that we've been recently testing, and that's a tailgate bike pad. We tried the Roadmaster tailgate bike pad and it worked out pretty well. This is something you wouldn't have to permanently install, so it's a flexible option that allows you to take your bikes with you. Now, we plan on actually keeping our tailgate bike pad even though we have an RV mounted bike pad. And the reason for that is we can, when we want, just add it to the tailgate, put our bikes on it, and then whether we're at the campground or whether the bike trail starts a little ways away, we have that flexibility of taking our bikes where we need to take them to go on our adventure. The thing about this option to be aware of, though, is that the bikes will still take up a significant amount of the space in your truck bed. So whether you're using your truck as a tow vehicle or whether you're towing behind a Class A RV, you absolutely can use this option, but you are giving up some storage space. And if you do have a roll cover, you won't be able to cover up the bed, so the things in the bed of your pickup could get wet. But in terms of an inexpensive and flexible option, you might consider a tailgate bike pad. Our fourth option is to use a roof rack. For example, if you tow a travel trailer with an SUV, your vehicle may already have a roof rack built in. And in fact, we've seen on a lot of smaller campers like Teardrops, they also have a roof rack. And it's easy enough to mount a bike rack on the roof of one of these vehicles. This might be a great option. There's just a couple of things to consider if you use this method for bringing your bikes. And that is, it's likely that you're going to have to lift your bikes above your head to be able to get them on the rack. The other thing to be aware of is how tall you're making your vehicle. So if you have an SUV and then you're mounting bikes on top of it, you may encounter situations where there's a low overpass or a tunnel and you've become too tall to travel that way. So you may have to adjust your routes if you go this path. But it might be a really good way to bring your bicycles with you when you go RV camping. Option number 5. And this is a relatively flexible and inexpensive option that might work for you. If you have a car or a vehicle that you're towing behind your RV, for example, you have a Class A and you're towing a car, you can use a portable bike rack. This would just install temporarily on the vehicle and then you can put your bikes on it. We have a Thule bike rack that we put on the back of one of our cars, and it's a really nice option to be able to bring bikes along on an adventure if we're just taking our car somewhere. So imagine, if you will, you're traveling along with a Class A and you've got a towed. You could add a bike rack to that towed vehicle to bring your bikes. There's many different bike rack options available, and they're usually very flexible to adjust to just about any kind of vehicle. So a portable bike rack might be a great option for you to bring your bikes. Our sixth option for bringing bikes with you when you RV camp is to have a receiver-mounted hitch. Now, many motorhomes and some travel trailers have a receiver hitch mounted right into the vehicle. These are usually found on the back of the vehicle, and there are many different racks that install right into the receiver hitch. So this could be a great option for bringing your bikes camping. Among those racks, you'll find different ones that hold the bike by the frame, or sometimes it'll have trays that go underneath the tires, so you can find one that's just right for you. A few things to be aware of if you choose this option. Look at the back of the vehicle you plan to mount the bike rack on. Is there a storage bin that you need to be able to access, and will the rack block the door? On a teardrop, for example, it might block your outside kitchen. So if you want to be able to use your outside kitchen, you'd have to move the bike rack, which may mean removing it entirely, although there are some racks that simply fold down or fold out of the way temporarily so that you can get access to the storage or kitchen. The other thing to note with a receiver-mounted hitch on the back of your vehicle is that you're likely not able to see your bikes when you're traveling. Now, this may not be a big deal, but if you want to have the security of being able to see the bikes, know that from the driver's seat, you probably can't see your bicycles if they're mounted on the rear of your RV or travel trailer. The third thing to keep in mind with a receiver-mounted hitch is just making sure that the bicycles are secured to the rack. Sometimes the back of a vehicle, especially the back of a travel trailer, may bounce a little bit on the highway, and you'll want to make sure the bikes are secured to the rack. Now, one option that we saw that was really neat was on a Boreas camper. They actually had the receiver mount on the front of the teardrop camper, which was an awesome option. We wish other RV manufacturers would consider this, because that way it would not block your storage doors or kitchen in the back of the camper, and you'll actually be able to see the bikes as you travel down the road. Our seventh option for bringing your bikes RV camping is actually very similar. It's a front-mounted hitch receiver bike rack. Now, why would you want to put your bikes on the front of your RV? Well, we ran into one couple who had a truck camper. They had a pickup with a truck camper in the bed of the truck, and that freed up their rear receiver hitch to be able to tow a boat. How awesome is that, to be able to go camping and have a boat with you? But if you want to bring your bikes along when you're doing that, you have limited options. In their case, what they did was they had a receiver hitch mounted to the front of their pickup, which allowed them to put a bike rack there. And for them, this worked out really, really well. You could do the same thing with other types of RVs, like a Class C. Now, there's two things you'll want to consider if you put a front-mounted bike rack. Number one is that you'll probably want the ability to easily remove the rack when you're not using it. Once you've reached camp, you may not want to have that rack there, so the couple we spoke to found one that was easily foldable so they could put the rack away when they weren't using it. The second thing to keep in mind is on the front of your vehicle. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, when you're driving down the highway and you get a windshield full of bugs, well, your bikes are going to take the brunt of that too, so your bikes may get dirtier than with some of the other bike rack options. However, for the flexibility of being able to camp and have a boat along, a front-mounted bike rack sounds like a great option. And now we're on to the eighth and final way to bring bikes RV camping, and this is the way we personally use. It's an over-the-propane tank mounted bike rack. The rack clamps onto the A-frame at the front of our travel trailer, and it keeps the bikes up over the propane tanks. It works really well for us. The bikes are pretty much out of the way. They don't block access to any part of the RV, other than we found with our old RV, the propane tank cover didn't have an access panel, and that made it a bit challenging. Our new camper has a little panel at the top to turn the propane tanks on and off, so you'll probably want to have that if you choose this option. In our case, we have an Arvika bike rack, which comes in models that can hold from 2 to 4 bikes. There's other ones available too, like the Jacket, which we've seen at various RV shows and looks really promising. So consider, if you have a travel trailer, a over-the-propane tank bike rack. Similar to an over-the-propane tank bike rack is something that we saw on a Black Bean teardrop camper. They have a storage box mounted on the front of the camper, and then the rack mounts onto the storage box. So it's in a similar position to ours, which is on the A-frame. In their case, a 2-bike rack can mount right onto that storage box, and it looked really promising. A nice way to bring bikes along. Now, we've covered 8 possible ways to bring your bikes camping, and you might have noticed there's a couple that I did not cover. I don't really recommend these, but we have seen them commonly used. Sometimes people will put a bike rack and they'll mount this to the bumper of the back of their RV or travel trailer. Now, generally those bumpers are not meant to carry weight, and friends of ours actually did lose their bike rack when it was mounted on the bumper. So before you go this option, just make sure that your bumper can actually support the weight of the bikes you're planning to mount there. Similarly, we probably don't recommend putting a bike rack on the ladder on the back of an RV. It just really isn't intended to support that kind of load. So there you have it, 8 ways to bring bikes with you when you go RV camping. I hope that you found this helpful and that you're able to bring your bikes out and have a fantastic adventure in the woods. If you bring your bikes RV camping, we'd love to hear about it. What type of rack do you use, or how do you bring your bikes when you go camping? Please leave a comment. If we covered one of the options you use, or where we missed one, We'd love to know, and I'm sure the community watching the videos would love to know too, so please leave a comment and share your thoughts on how to bring bikes with you when you go RV camping. Thanks for joining us on Travel Trail Sail. We hope you found this video to be helpful, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon. Bye!